Andy, let's get straight to the point. Most people won't really know you. They'll have heard you because you are probably the most vocal coach we've ever seen at Liberty Way, running up and down the line, shouting, screaming like a madman. So today we're going to get to know you. But let's start at that point because you have got a reputation for being very vocal, very animated and very angry.
Yeah, I think that the sort of drive for success and what it means in terms of for family sort of and working in the week towards that game, that sort of like the hunger to win sometimes gets into emotion. And I've just said to myself that I think it's important just to be you on the sideline. Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way to coach, to show passion, to get your message over? You get some managers who are very conservative and quiet and observant and analytical on the side, like Arsene Wenger. And you'll get some managers like a Diego Simeone or a Conte who are very vocal and passionate. So for me, it's the love of the game. Remembering my first World Cup at 1990 when I was younger and seeing the atmosphere, the environment it created in the household, on the streets when I'd go out and play, the happiness on my dad's face, and just the family at the time, and relating to that. Lineker scored goals, scored in the semi-final, and I can remember it, and the sort of happiness and joy it created and the passion I could see in people. From that day, it was sort of you'd go out with a ball and then you'd go and play, and you'd try and be them players, and sort of that passion's been there from that because of the connection I had with my dad, and still have, and sort of, for me, football is a game that I love, but the winning and losing, because we come from humble backgrounds and deprived, when I was younger, sort of I see football as the way out for me and my family, in terms of the talent that I've been given by God, and what I've had to work at.
But that passion, which you've got abundance of enthusiasm and passion, and I spoke to Jimmy about this at the beginning of the season, and he said, I was like that when I was his age. I was kicking every ball, heading every ball, falling out with the opposition dugout, shouting at every Tom, Dick and Harry, and eventually he's sort of drawn that back in. Do you, I mean, you do wind people up, and
Don't mean to.
Do you care?
No, like it's never intentional. Normally I just focus on the team and how can the team win.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to intentionally wind anyone up. Sometimes I feel that in England, like we said off here, that like you have to behave in a robotic way, or the expectation of society in terms of everyone's got to behave like this to be accepted. For me, like, you accept everyone for who they are and just be yourself. So it's not intentional. It's just that drive and that hunger to win.
But do some players get, that? You're a football coach. You've got different characters in the changing room.
Yeah.
Who like to be, some like to be loved, some needed to be shouted at. My impression is that, generally speaking, you're shouting instructions. You're not having a go. And there's a difference, isn't there? Because if you're constantly in someone's ear and having a go, you can really ruin their confidence. Some need it. But am I right in thinking that you're giving instructions based on the training sessions and the video analysis and all of that you've watched through the week?
Yeah, brilliant. Like, in terms of what you said, the game, obviously, tactically, like, I feel like I'm astute. Sometimes you prepare for a game, the team change the formation, and you've got a choice to make. Do you leave the players to go and sort it out? Or you can sort of say they've changed to 3-5-2 from 4-3-3 and getting that information on. So it's the tactical instruction or the detail where you can tweak the game tactically or gain an advantage, whether that's in possession or out of possession, or something that you've picked up from the side was a play you might not see. So it's getting that information out to the players, or sometimes it's getting it out to a Ryan Beswick, a Scott McManus, a Joe Magunda, because they're able then to sort of relay that message. And sometimes, because it's non-league, you get 2 sessions a week. Sometimes 1 because you play on Tuesday, like we are tonight. So you don't get chance to work on everything that you want in training that you might see.
And you talk about, you mentioned their managers, and it's almost like you are the manager, which you're not. Now, I've sat with you on the travelling to a game, and the detail, I mean, it's far beyond anything I did when I was in the 80s. It's 4-4-2, this is what we'll do. We don't worry about the opposition and what they're going to do. Let's set up our way. And the analysis and the detail and the patterns of play and the phases of play and the ability to change the game and formations throughout the game, that's down to you, isn't it? That's your job.
Yeah, I've got to say on that point, like, since coming in, obviously people said, oh, the players have come in and made a change, and you've made a change, Andy, but Jimmy's been excellent in terms of management, in terms of the delegation skills, so he completely trusts me in terms of on the training ground and tactically to prepare the team. So in terms of the tactical side of the game, that's done on the training ground, obviously, and Jimmy allows me to do that. Obviously, he observes, and I think people might not realise how hard he works. Like, he'll watch clips of the opposition as well, and we'll share ideas and bounce ideas. But yeah, in terms of the tactics or the plan that we come up for the game, we speak about it and say the shape that we're going to go through and what it's going to look like, then I'll see from there. But yeah, mainly in terms of how the opposition play and how we play is sort of left to the training ground, and we work on that there.
Do you fall out? I mean, do you clash over those ideas? Because
do you know what? Like, I think that you have to create an environment which is, and it sounds silly, slightly confrontational, to challenge each other. I'm not going to argue because he's a lot bigger than me in terms of physically, but we do have them sort of differences. And I think the greatness with Jimmy is when he feels I'm wrong, like in the dugout sometimes, maybe when I've overstepped the mark or got too passionate, he's told me straight behind closed doors, but he's told me straight. At the same time, if there's some of that I don't agree with Jimmy, I'll say it. I think that's important to have that relationship. At the end of the day, there's that respect. I understand Jimmy's position at the club and work with him, and I respect him and appreciate for the opportunity he's given me, and understand as well that he's the manager of the football club in terms of that's his title, and I'm the head coach. I think a lot of football clubs are sort of going that way in terms of.
I was going to say, because I mean, you clearly are an excellent coach. I mean, it can't be a coincidence that, and Jimmy would be the first to say that when you came in and the club was at rock bottom, you know, there was a clear plan. Let's stop conceding goals. Let's start with a clean sheet. And yes, there were there was a massive run of undefeated games, but not very entertaining a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Not many goals scored. You know, not great for the fans. But that's because you were in survival mode, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, when I come in, the first thing I noticed is that we had Liam Daly, who's excellent at defending his box. He was unreal when I came in here. And then we had Kyle Perrett, who was a target man. Luke was coming back from injury, so we basically defended quite deep because that was Liam's strengths and he was brilliant at that. And we had Kyle at the other end, who's sort of a target man, so we couldn't get up the pitch quickly, and we had to make sure that we sort of didn't concede too much space in behind. So it's sort of the players you've got. And for me, when you're down there, you've got to take the negativity out of it. The best way to take the negativity out of it is stop conceding goals, because then players don't get on at players. The first game was Banbury, the first game was Rush Hall, who was flying. The third game was Banbury, so you had third and first in the league. So we had to make sure that we nullified sort of the opposition and made sure we understood their strengths and nullified them, which we did.
And you did that, and you got through to the end of the season. You and Jimmy formed that lovely partnership, and the lads got you through. And then you start a new season, and Jimmy comes up with a new plan. It's fewer players.
Yeah.
Keep them fit and healthy. These are his words. And stick with a smaller squad. Add to it, like we've done recently, you know, with a decent player coming in, you know, with Kyle Storer, and the attitude and the way the games have been approached is different because we're now not in survival mode. And guess what? We're right at the top of the league.
Yeah, I think it's the day after. I think you're spot on. The day after the season finished, I spoke to Jimmy over the phone. 2 days after the season finished, we sat down for about 4 or 5 hours. And we had a recruitment plan in terms of, one is how we're going to play. So we're going to play 2 formations. What players do we need to recruit around that formation? First of all, they're going to be good people. So are they good people in the change room? And everyone in that change room is a good person. There's no one who sort of hasn't got that love for the game, who's a bad egg, so to speak. And then we're going to recruit good players. Athletically, the group had to evolve. There had to be more speed in the team. We had to be more dynamic in terms of areas. If I look at some players like Tyrell Waite, Kane Richards, Matty Stenson, Jaden Charles, Cameron McWilliams, Prince is athletic, Kane Noble's athletic, Lafanya Roturner's athletic, Charlie Dadd's athletic. So we've got a lot of athletic players because the team, for the way we wanted to play, they wasn't quick enough across the ground. And then players who we looked at an history of how many games have they played. So if I look at Nathaniel, I've worked with him for 4 years, he's missed 2 games that I can remember. So the amount of games that we're churning out. And then 1 or 2 players who can play in a couple of positions. So for example, Isaiah Osborne's played centre mid, centre back. You've got some other players like that. Aaron Ford's played right back, good centre mid. So we got that blend right and we got it early, and we had a target of 5 players in each position. Who's number 1, number 2, and so on. and we went for them players really, really early when the season finished.
And you mentioned there that you'd got 2 formations, and the game has changed. You know, you're not going to complete a season playing exactly the same way, home and away, in every game, and that's the way the game is changing. And somebody like you with new ideas and your UEFA qualifications can bring that to the club. But is there a brand, Danylyszyn, or Danylyszyn, as I know you like to call yourself, delicious?
I don't know about that, but
is there a brand that we would identify as yours in terms of style and approach?
Yeah, 100%. Out of possession, a counter-pressing side, high tempo, high energy. I believe that you've got to defend as far away from the goal as possible, because if there's less penalty box entries, you concede less goals. So for me, when we lose the ball, you've got to go and get after it in an organised fashion around the opposition sort of formation, and how you're going to do that. In possession, we're going to make shorter passes, because then when you lose the ball, you're closer together to counter-press. We're going to be a possession-based team, what looks to get 1v1 opportunities, runners in behind, or play through the team. We're going to make sure we hold width and create an overload centrally, in terms of making sure we can dominate the game, stretch the team width ways, stretch the team long ways. In terms of the philosophy, that's sort of a brief summary, but there's definitely an identity. If I'm being brutally honest, where because of the variables of non-league, the injuries, the Saturday, Tuesday, possibly rest because people have been working 12 hours, Thursday or recovery session, we're probably at 65-70% of the brand of football that I'd like to play, because it takes time to implement that. We don't knock the ball long into an area and all chase it, which doesn't take as long, and then boot it and run and play what the class is percentage, which I don't think is. We don't play like that. We've got a way of playing which takes longer. But I believe in the principles that if you work well, work hard, and you are tactically astute and prepared, the long-term benefits, there'll be a foundation at the club for long, rather than it be just a turnover.
I mean, you talk about attracting a certain sort of player, and when we sat on the coach, and I think in 5 minutes you taught me stuff, and I thought when I'd been coaching, I knew my stuff. And you've got your iPad out, and you're moving things around, and go, look, of course, if that goes there, look at how everybody moves, and he knows he's got to come there. With some players, do you find that goes over their heads, and they're like, listen, you may be a coach and a very intelligent man and articulate, but I'm bamboozled here. Can't I just go and get stuck in?
100%. I mean, that's the non-league can be frustrating like that, in terms of we've got some very intelligent players, and part of the recruitment was making sure we had players who was tactically astute. You do get other players which are mavericks off the cuff. They like to play that way. Some lads want to come in and do 5-a-side because they've had a long day's work. So that's why we're at probably 65-70% of how we want to play or getting that message across. So it is difficult, and sometimes you have to know your players in terms of simplifying the information for some and then giving more information to others. And that's sort of the skill of the management team of understanding them players. I've got to mention Anna Freeman as well, because she clips up videos to show the players so they can visually see it, their performance, what they're doing well, what they're not doing well. So she's got a big part to play in.
I mean, that analysis is, it's a huge part of the game, isn't it? Right from their fitness and diet and, how many kilometres you've run. I mean, when I was playing, it was just, did we win? And did you play well? And it was kind of as simple as that. And you've taken it, and football has gone to a whole new level. Let's talk a little bit about you as a person, super enthusiastic and clearly, tuned into this. You've got a day job. It's at Basford.
Yeah.
Is there a conflict of interest there? I'm thinking of what the fans are saying, potentially here, because Basford are in Nuneaton's league. Yeah,
I've got 3. So I'm working for Sheffield United as well. So I don't get to see the missus that much. Probably that's why we've been together so long. That I don't see her loads. So when we do see, we've got loads of time. But in terms of the 2 roles, everyone's got a daytime job. Obviously, you have to put when you open that door, you have to say, have I earned enough money for my family today? And put that work ethic in. So Basford, the under-18s, is the under-18s. I'm there to develop players for Basford's first team, develop players to progress and have a career themselves. So when I put the Basford badge on, from whether that's 9 till 3 in the day, I'm a Basford United coach.
And you won't take a call from Jimmy?
I'll take a call from Jimmy still, obviously, in the breaks and stuff like that, of course. But I'm a Basford United coach, and we've got Nuneaton in the league, the Basewood Under-19s League, the National League. Nuneaton are in there, and we've got them coming up. So I'm a Basewood United coach. But when it comes to Nuneaton, once that's done and I put my Nuneaton badge on, I'm passionate about the football club. I believe that when you work for somebody, work for a club, you give that club 100%. One, for the football club to progress, because you're paid to do that, and it's important to more people than just myself, the players. It's important to people who are part of the furniture here, the staff, the fans. I see myself as a guest in terms of I've been invited to this football club to work for them, which is a privilege. The people who have been here long term, so whether that's the security guard, the fans who've been here long, staff members who have been here for decades, they're part of the furniture for me, and it's a privilege, like I said, for me to work for them. So I give them everything when I'm here. There's no conflict of interest, and I think that was shown at the Basewood game when we played Basewood at Basewood. It was, I think the game was 4-0, and I was passionate about us winning, because obviously
it was a brilliant performance. I think that's probably our best performance on the road, the ones I've seen. I mean, it was a complete performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a complete performance. The lads was at it. We've got a couple of Basewood ex-players in there, and obviously there was a lot of Nottingham lads what come out to see the game, but see me because they're my friends, and so that was important to me. And my career is first team base long term. My goal is going to be league football.
Well, and let's go there now, because I don't know. I mean, I've got the helicopter view. I can oversee you, and I do see you more and more increasingly as a head coach. And then I think, no doubt he wants to be the manager somewhere, if not here. But would he be the guy that wants to negotiate players' deals? And I know that can be taken out of your hands. Is he the guy that really wants to do that side of the game, or is he happier coaching? And I suppose you're the only person that can answer that.
I think the game's going. If you look at the top teams, a lot of times what we're seeing now is head coach as the title. So I think if you look at it's Klopp or a Guardiola or some of them, they're titled head coach, and what you've got is a sporting director. Arteta's the same at Arsenal. He's the head coach. Edu's the sporting director. Arteta has sort of a big say in the recruitment, obviously, and who they're going to sign. But then the financial side of the negotiations is done probably by Edu or the technical team.
And you've done some of this yourself, because sometimes you look at the Nuneaton team and it resembles the Tamworth teams of 2 or 3 years ago. No coincidence, you were at Tamworth. Yeah. You know the players. Presumably there's been a phone call at some point.
Yeah, of course. I mean, with some of the negotiations at non-league, obviously, Jimmy oversees that side of the football club, which he's tremendous at. And I'll be sort of involved in them negotiations, but at the end of the day, Jimmy knows the financial structure at the club and what direction we can go at, making sure that we don't overspend and we stay within the budget which we have. And he sort of will have that final say in terms of what we're going to give up. We'll have that talking suggestion. But to answer your question, for me, sort of accountability is a big thing. For me, I believe in my philosophy and my coaching ability. I want to be accountable for that. I want someone to look and say, he's not good enough or he's good enough. For me, that's important, because that's the drive. For me, it's not about the money, it's about the success. Success for family, first and foremost, and to prove to my wife, to prove to my dad, that to make them proud of me, and to prove to my kids that if you work hard and you work well and consistent, that's the way forward in life.
And they see that, because I got a nice relationship with your family. You know, often we'll sit together and I often tease them. I say, does Daddy run up and down the lounge going, get to bed, get to bed, get to bed, with his hat on, and and they laugh, you know, because I think they probably see a different you at home to the one that I see in the dugout. Let's stay on that management theme. Have you been approached to be a manager anywhere else?
Yeah, I've had since being here, I've had 3 approaches to be a manager of a club, because obviously I think Tamworth was bottom. Me and Smudge went in as joint managers at the time, and we went from bottom to 12th with 15 games to go. And then the season after we was top, on course for promotion with 8 or 9 games to go, and COVID hit. And then coming here, there was bottom with 15 games to go, coincidence. And sort of then obviously they went from bottom, being a few points adrift, to 16th. And then this year, obviously, we're at the top end of the table and in a decent place. So obviously with that, sort of people have asked me, but for me, loyalty is a big thing. So, and also a project. Jimmy's given me the opportunity here. I could have went somewhere else. They offered me more money, but it's not about money. It's about the opportunity to succeed, completing something. The average manager is 7 months at non-league or something around there. So being somewhere, or head coach, being somewhere at a football club where there's a project and a long-term thing, and that I've got the trust with the owners at the club in Sante and Jimmy. I'm respected at the club with the other staff. I trust the players, and I'm building a culture and a way of playing. I think that takes time.
So how do you know when the job's done? I mean, is it done if Nuneaton go up this season and then you can think, right, what's next? Or do you then think, oh, well, now we're at Conference North, I'll stick it out and let's see how far we can go with Nuneaton? Or do your aspirations lie elsewhere?
I think the first target is to get Nuneaton promoted to the Conference North, because that's the ambition of the club. I think that first and foremost with the club is we've got to look at where we've come from. Don't run before you can walk. I think the expectation of the club from the fans when I listened to forums or spoke to fans for this year was, can we be better than last year? Can we be mid-table? Because of the few barren seasons that Nuneaton have had. But Jimmy's been working hard behind the scenes to lay a foundation, a structure, a financial structure of the club, so it's got stability. So I think that's why it's been hard maybe to balance that, because Jimmy's focus has been on the club outside of the football field. He's needed then someone to have that focus with him and alongside him on the football field, the performance. So I think that the club's ambition, now they've got that structure, is promotion. This year, was that the target? I won't sort of say inside what I believed, inside myself, because of confidence in terms of the squad we recruited and our ability as a management team. But
You're saying that we're overachieving?
I'll ask you the question, because you've been here ages.
Did you know, I spoke to the skipper today and he said, you'll end up interviewing me.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, which is brilliant, because that's the thing, isn't it? There's a rapport within this club, and I don't just focus on the team. The whole club has got a rapport and banter, that just there's a feel-good factor, which has been missing, and you talked about the right people coming in, and there is this feel-good factor, and the crowds are coming back, and it feels good. And I can't even remember what your question was, because I'm the guy that asks the questions. But
do you think we're overachieving?
Do I think you're overachieving? Well, in terms of our expectations, I was probably one of those that would always want your club to do the best. But anything better than last year would have been satisfying, because it was awful at times, wasn't it? In terms of the football we played, the position that we found ourselves in. There were times when I was bored. Sounds awful.
Yeah, I understand.
Now I'm like, great, Saturday or Tuesday or whenever. Yeah. I do think we're overachieving, not because of the players, but because of what my expectation was.
Yeah. I think that's this time that's like that for a lot of people. What I've spoke to in terms of fans or people who've been around at the club, I think that as well. What I will say on that note is that because of the staff that we've got in place and the players. They're all hard working. So I said that the culture at the club, Jimmy, has got to be, everyone's got to work hard. Yeah. So if I could explain to you the amount of hours, what goes into a game preparation, you're looking at probably 10 to 12 hours in terms of preparing for a game outside at home. The amount of hours, what goes then onto the training ground, or the planning, Coops in terms of the S&C part, Jamie with the physio, Anna with the analyst, Jimmy in terms of filling the boardroom, making sure that the financial structure at the club, and then carrying that out to match day, and the people around that in terms of managing that. There's a tremendous work ethic at the club at the moment, and I feel that's the biggest change in culture that I've seen at the club. And
it's very much welcomed. I mean, listen, we could chat all day, and I know you're being backed as well with the training facilities. Sponsors have got their heads together to get you everything that you need to do the best job that you can. But I'm going to finish on a question that's let's talk about the hats. I don't think I've ever seen your hair.
Well, my trim's maybe not the best when it's done at the best of times. But no, the hat thing is, growing up, before my wife and children, my dad was the one who believed in me. It was really difficult growing up with my mum for one or two reasons. My dad was always there for me. And my dad's wore a hat as long as I know. So the hat thing is that sort of, because there was many years when I didn't get to see my dad like I would have wanted to, because of certain things. So now I've missed that time. We're gaining that time back up, and success helps with that. So it's a reminder of him in terms of the hat, in terms of he wears a hat and that he's with me every day in that sense.
Brilliant. And there we are. We have an exclusive. That's a lovely story, and I think a lot of people will relate to that. Andy, It's always a pleasure talking to you. I hope we've revealed to the fans a little bit more about what makes you tick. I'm sure we have, and we'll chat again. But for now, really appreciate your time. Thanks, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Cheers, thanks a lot, appreciate it.
If you want more information about Nuneaton Borough Football Club, sign up to our social media channels or go to the website.